Aaliyah had learned early in life how to move quietly through the world. Not because she was shy, but because the world had taught her that loud dreams often attracted disappointment. She grew up in a small apartment in Detroit, where the walls smelled faintly of spices and old books, and where her grandmother's voice filled every corner of the home. Fatima spoke Arabic like poetry, even when she was angry, even when she was tired. As a child, Aaliyah didn't understand the importance of those moments. She only knew that her grandmother insisted she repeat words until they sounded right, until the rhythm felt natural, until the language lived inside her instead of sitting awkwardly on her tongue. Her mother worked long hours, sometimes 2 jobs at once, and her father had left before Aaliyah could remember his face clearly. So it was Fatima who raised her. Fatima who cooked, taught, corrected, encouraged, and scolded. Fatima who believed that knowledge was the only thing no one could take from you. When Aaliyah struggled with school, her grandmother never scolded her for bad grades. Instead, she would sit her down and ask her to explain what she didn't understand. Then she would tell stories. Stories about Morocco. Stories about merchants, trust, betrayal, patience, and honor. Stories about how words could build bridges or burn them down. By the time Aaliyah was 10, she could switch between Arabic and English without thinking. By 15, she could translate conversations for neighbors and family friends. By 18, she believed that language would be her way out of poverty. She imagined herself working in offices, traveling, helping people communicate. But life, as it often does, had other plans. College was expensive. Scholarships were competitive. Her mother got sick. Bills piled up. Aaliyah worked instead. 1 job became 2. Then 3. Translation work came occasionally, small and informal, never enough to survive on. When her grandmother passed away, something inside Aaliyah broke quietly. Fatima left behind stories, recipes, and lessons, but not enough money to save the small import business she had run for decades. Aaliyah tried to keep it alive. She failed. That failure haunted her more than anything else. Not because of the money, but because it felt like she had failed the woman who believed in her more than anyone else ever had. So she delivered food, day after day, night after night. She rode elevators that smelled like metal and impatience. She stood at doors where people barely looked at her face. She heard insults disguised as jokes, impatience disguised as authority. She swallowed her pride because rent didn't care about dignity. And slowly, she began to believe what the world seemed to tell her every day, that her skills were invisible, that her knowledge didn't count because it didn't come with a certificate. The afternoon she walked into Harrison and Burke felt no different at first. Just another tall building. Just another rushed order. She didn't know that the small decision to accept one last delivery would change her life forever. The service elevator was broken, stopping endlessly, creaking like it might give up entirely. When she finally stepped onto the 47th floor, she could feel the tension before she even saw it. People moved fast, spoke sharply, avoided eye contact. It reminded her of the stories her grandmother used to tell about markets before a deal collapsed. Panic had a smell, Fatima used to say. You could sense it before words confirmed it. Then came the insult. Hey, pizza girl. Aaliyah had been called worse, but something about the man's voice stayed with her. The way he looked at her like she was an inconvenience instead of a person. The way he spoke as if she had no right to exist in his space. She apologized because that was easier. Because fighting back cost energy she didn't have. Inside the conference room, she saw fear dressed in expensive suits. People with power who suddenly felt powerless. And for the first time in a long time, Aaliyah realized something that surprised her. These people were not stronger than her. They were just more protected. When Victoria Burke asked if anyone spoke Arabic, it felt like the room held its breath. Aaliyah's heart pounded so loudly she wondered if others could hear it. She knew she should leave. She knew that stepping forward could make things worse. She knew that people like her were not expected to save people like them, but she also knew something else. She knew the language. She knew the culture. She knew the music of Arabic the way her grandmother had taught her. And she knew that if she walked away, she would carry that regret forever. So she spoke, "I speak Arabic." The disbelief on their faces didn't surprise her. She had seen that look many times before. The look that said, "You don't fit the picture I had in my mind." But she had learned from Fatima that confidence didn't need permission. It only needed truth. Answering the phone felt natural. Familiar. Like stepping into a room she had been trained for her entire life. The Arabic flowed easily, shaped by years of correction and care. She wasn't just repeating words. She was honoring them. As the call ended and the room processed what had just happened, Aaliyah felt something shift. The way they looked at her changed. Not completely. Not yet. But enough. The preparation that followed felt like stepping into her grandmother's past. Legal terms reminded her of old contracts Fatima used to read aloud. Cultural warnings echoed lessons she had heard 100 times growing up. She wasn't guessing. She was remembering. When the sheikh recognized her grandmother's name, it felt unreal. Like the past had reached across decades to touch the present. Aaliyah understood then that nothing her grandmother had taught her was wasted. Not a single word. Not a single afternoon spent practicing pronunciation while other kids watched television. The condition the sheikh said changed everything. In that moment, the world corrected itself slightly. Not perfectly. Not completely. But enough to matter. When Victoria offered her the job, Aaliyah didn't feel triumph the way movies often show it. She felt relief. Deep, shaking relief. As if she had been holding her breath for years without realizing it. Walking into the building a week later, dressed differently but feeling like the same person, Aaliyah understood something important. Success hadn't changed her value. It had only revealed it to others. When she later stood on stage, speaking to young people who reminded her of herself, she spoke simply because that was how truth traveled best. She didn't promise easy paths. She didn't sell dreams without struggle. She told them what her grandmother had taught her through actions, not speeches. That talent has no uniform, that worth doesn't ask permission, that sometimes the thing that saves everything is something you already carry inside you. And somewhere beyond the noise of applause, Aaliyah felt certain that Fatima was smiling. Aaliyah's first weeks at Harrison and Burke felt unreal, as if she were walking through someone else's life. Every morning she entered the same building she once accessed through the service door, but now the glass doors opened automatically for her. People smiled. Some nodded politely. Others stared a little too long, trying to connect the confident woman in the navy blazer with the delivery girl they had ignored before. Aaliyah noticed everything, but she said nothing. Her grandmother had taught her that silence could be stronger than confrontation. Her office was small but bright, with a window that looked out over the city. From that height, New York looked calmer than it ever felt on the streets. On her desk sat a notebook she had carried for years, filled with handwritten Arabic phrases, notes about tone, cultural reminders, and expressions her grandmother used to love. She placed it carefully beside her laptop. Degrees could be printed. Experience could be claimed. But that notebook held a lifetime. The executives treated her differently now. They asked questions instead of giving orders. They listened when she spoke. Some tried too hard to sound respectful, as if afraid of saying the wrong thing. Aaliyah didn't resent them. She understood fear. She had lived with it for years. What mattered was that they were finally listening. Victoria Burke checked in on her often, sometimes about work, sometimes about nothing at all. One afternoon, she asked Aaliyah to join her for coffee. They sat in a quiet corner of the building's cafe, surrounded by glass and steel and soft background noise. "I keep thinking about something," Victoria said, stirring her drink. "How close we came to losing everything that day." Aaliyah nodded. "Sometimes things only reveal themselves at the last moment." Victoria studied her carefully. "We failed you," she said quietly. "Not just you. People like you." Aaliyah didn't respond right away. She appreciated the honesty, but she also knew apologies didn't erase systems. "I don't want to be an exception," Aaliyah said finally. "I want to be a reminder." Victoria smiled. "You already are." As weeks turned into months, Aaliyah became the bridge Sheikh al-Rashid had promised. She translated emails, calls, contracts, and conversations, but more importantly, she translated intention. When American directness threatened to offend, she softened it. When Gulf politeness risked being misunderstood as avoidance, she clarified it. Trust grew steadily. The deal expanded. New opportunities opened. During one late evening at the office, Aaliyah found herself alone, reviewing documents as the city lights flickered outside. She thought of her mother, still working long hours, still worrying about bills. She decided then that success meant nothing if it wasn't shared. That weekend, she went home to Detroit. Her mother opened the door and froze when she saw her. Not because of how Aaliyah looked, but because of how she stood. Straighter. Lighter. They sat at the kitchen table where Fatima once corrected pronunciations and told stories. Aaliyah told her everything. About the insult. The phone call. The sheik. The job. Her mother cried quietly, covering her mouth with her hand. "Your grandmother knew," she said. "She always knew." Aaliyah smiled through tears. "I think she planned this." A few months later, during her first trip to Dubai, Aaliyah stood in a city that felt both foreign and familiar. The heat reminded her of stories from Morocco. The rhythm of speech reminded her of home. Sheikh al-Rashid received her with respect, not as an employee, but as family. On his desk sat the photograph of Fatima, young and smiling, standing proudly in front of her small Detroit shop. Aaliyah touched the frame gently. "She would have loved this city," she said softly. "She loved people," the sheik replied. "Cities are just places where people gather." On the flight back to New York, Aaliyah stared out the window and thought about the young version of herself who believed her future was limited by circumstances. She thought about all the people who carried skills the world refused to recognize because they didn't come in the right package. That was when the idea took root. The Fatima Foundation began small. 1 scholarship. Then 2. Then 10. Language studies. International business. Cultural education. Aaliyah insisted on one rule. No one would be rejected for lacking formal credentials alone. Interviews mattered. Stories mattered. Lived experience mattered. At the first awards ceremony, Aaliyah stood on stage and looked at faces filled with hope and doubt, just like hers once had been. She spoke simply, because complicated words often hid simple truths. "I was invisible," she told them. "Until I wasn't. Not because I changed, but because someone finally listened." She paused, letting the silence do its work. Do not let the world convince you that what you carry inside you has no value. The applause that followed wasn't loud at first. It grew slowly, like understanding. Later that night, alone in her apartment, Aaliyah lit a small candle beside her grandmother's old notebook. She whispered a few words in Arabic, words of gratitude, words of remembrance. The flame flickered gently. Somewhere deep inside, she felt peace, not because life had become easy, but because it finally made sense. And every time she heard someone dismiss another person because of their uniform, their accent, or their position, Aaliyah remembered that day on the 47th floor. She remembered how close the world came to missing something extraordinary, and she made sure it didn't happen again.